Tonight, a snake scandal in Florida.
I can't watch it. It's like watching someone kill my kids.
We warn you, the video is upsetting.
Some are very upset, calling what happened cruel and inhumane.
Just to warn you, you may find this video disturbing.
It's the sound the owner of these snakes could not bear to hear, so he left the room. But just seconds later, Coffey's cell phone video shows shock on the officers' faces as they realize they shot the pregnant boa that Coffey says was still moving.
No! Oh my God! Why?
It was a mistake.
How? I reminded you 10 times! You just killed something that wasn't illegal.
This is just horrifying.
Did the FWC screw up here?
Absolutely, the FWC screwed up here.
I don't want this to just go away. This can't just go away. We need to have real action.
We sincerely thank all of you happy campers out there. Your support makes a real difference in our efforts here at Kamp Kenan. This week's shout out goes to Hunter Orr. Thank you for all you do and for loving reptiles.
What's going on, everyone? Kenan here. Feeling a little bit under the weather, but today is an important video. We're talking about Buttercup, man. You guys know her, you love her, you understand that she is a Burmese python. And Burmese pythons have become invasive in Florida. And in February of 2021, Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission instituted new rules about possessing these animals. They switched them from what was called a conditional species permit to a prohibited species permit. Now, those of you may remember that when that rule change happened, I had to go through quite a lot of hoops legally to continue to own this animal. I had the conditional species permit for many, many years, and it was a fantastic program. It enabled exhibitors like myself and snake breeders to continue to breed and sell their snakes, albeit out of state. But then for some reason, FWC thought it prudent to move them to a whole new designation, the prohibited species designation. And I basically had some new rules to follow. Number one, you can only keep the animal for commercial use if you are exhibiting the animal. Now, of course, I do a lot of YouTube videos and I do private tours here on my facility. Basically, I fell into the category that I was able to continue to own this snake because I meet the criteria to own those snakes. She has to remain indoors for the rest of her life. She can no longer come out. If you go back and look at some of the videos we used to do, we actually had the ability to bring her out and get her out into the sunlight, get her out into the big recreation pond. She would swim around and so on. You'll also notice, by the way, that she is extremely white at the moment. Matt, who is manning the camera as always, was blown away by this. This is because she is about to shed. She's got that clear scale over her eye that's become opaque and clouding. So that's one of the key ways we understand that she's about to shed. Now, when snakes are in shed, they can become more defensive because they can't see as well. So we're not going to really handle her. She's just here because kind of topic of discussion. So I'm doing this all in chronological order because I think it's important that everyone who isn't familiar with this story that we're going to discuss today understands the chronology of the laws that have been put into place here in Florida. Very, very important for everyone to understand what's going on. So as I was saying, she's a conditional species. She has to stay indoors, can no longer be outside. When a hurricane comes, she needs to be double bagged and put into a locked box. Anytime I bring her to a vet or anything for any kind of work that needs to be done on her, double bagged, locked box in a secure vehicle to be transported. She is in a very large enclosure that you guys can go back and check out the video for. You can kind of pan it. I call it, this is her snake cage, or snake cave, really. She's got water. We've got automatic watering situation here. We've got basking platforms. I tried to make this as spacious for her as possible because this is where she is going to remain for the rest of her life. She is inside a locked enclosure, inside a locked shed, which has double door entry, where there is signage. If you look over here, we've got signage that has to be said. I have new signs being made, so they'll look a little more pro. But we have to have the Latin name on there. We have to have danger, dangerous reptiles. So that's what the state asks for. That with what I do commercially, meaning for my business, for my job, between YouTube and education, I'm allowed to possess this animal. I'm only allowed to possess her. She has been grandfathered to me because she was under the conditional species permit. I'm only allowed to keep her. I can never replace her. When she dies, I can no longer obtain another Burmese python for education. So that's that. Oh, and how did I get her? Years ago, she was given to me because I had this conditional species permit. I always go for all my permits. I want to have the ability to always be legally able to possess these animals. I did a lot of work. I do and did a lot of work with Bush Wildlife Sanctuary, and they are, in need of people like me because in addition to doing good work for Florida's native wildlife, they will sometimes get some non-native exotic reptiles, and I am on hand for them to help them get those animals out of any potentially dangerous situation, whether it be out in the environment or human-animal conflict. So I have a permit that I maintained, the conditional species permit, and I was also and still am on their permit for emergency authorizations. What kind of mood are you in, sweetheart? She's just eaten 2 rats, so I don't think she's looking for a handout. She's really good. This snake is pretty amazing. She's 13 foot long, so she was given to me, and I kept her, and that was going on almost 10 years ago now. Law changed. I got the new prohibited species permit. So here's what we're talking about today. You guys who are in the reptile world probably have heard all the news in the last couple of weeks about the Holy Thursday Massacre, where Chris Coffey, who previously is a snake breeder and who kept reticulated pythons and Burmese pythons under the conditional species permit, was basically had been keeping his animals at the facility of a gentleman by the name of Bill McAdams. Fish and Wildlife came the Thursday before Good Friday. They came in and they killed, in a very heinous way, his reticulated pythons and his Burmese python, and they killed Bill McAdams' legal to own in the state of Florida, gravid 10-year-old female boa named Big Cheryl. Now, that in itself would have been horrible, to accidentally kill any animal. It's also heinous that they killed these pythons that were microchipped, on record with the state, and in locked cages. We're going to get to that story in a minute. But basically what they did was they accidentally killed Big Cheryl, Bill McAdams' boa constrictor, who had been gravid. Now, for those of you who know what gravid means, excuse this is for the people that don't know. That means the snake was pregnant. Boa constrictors give birth to live young. The shells don't actually form while inside the snake. The snake holds the eggs in an egg sac inside its body. So it's not like the mother is feeding the baby snakes, but the mother is holding and protecting the baby snakes, and the baby snakes are being fed by their own individual yolks in a clear egg sac. They just never get an egg shell because the mother never deposits them into a nest. She just holds on to them, and it's a survival tactic. It's safer for them to be with the mother during their incubation period than to just be laid out in the world where potential egg predators can get them. She was inadvertently and mistakenly killed by the 3 wildlife officers, which poses so many frustrating things. It brings to light so many frustrating facts about this case. One, why were these animals being killed anyway? In February of 2022, 14 months prior to the massacre on the Thursday before Good Friday, Chris Coffey was visited at the facility by Fish and Wildlife. And you can check out Donnie's video at Nerd, at New England Reptile. He has the body cam footage of that. And it's an amazing thing to watch. They're basically coming in, and you can really see how Chris tried to do everything legally. He reached out to Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission and said, hey, listen, I have I'm trying to comply with your new prohibited species mandates. I'm trying to get information. Not a lot of good information. There wasn't a good communication between Tallahassee and Chris about these new rules and what he was able to do and not do. But he did rehome over 100 of his snakes. He was able to liquidate most of his collection, but I do believe between the Burmese pythons and the reticulated pythons, there were 34 snakes left. So he contacted them because he knew he was running out of this 90-day grace period to possess these animals, and he wanted to do the right thing. So he called Fish and Wildlife. He called the authorities and said, look, guys, I need some more time. What do?
There's two things you could have done since you didn't liquidate by the end of July. Apply to be a public exhibitor, meaning you would have to have opened up, had business hours, money, like a pet shop almost.
I told you I would do that, but you couldn't give me the answer if I'm allowed to do that. I asked you if I could do that.
Here's the deal.
I asked you what I could do to continue to keep my snakes. When I've contacted your Tallahassee 15 times.
Okay.
I've left 15 messages. Nobody calls me back. And then when you called me, I asked you tons of questions, which you said you would find the answer for.
Okay.
I knew the date to stop. I stopped selling.
And Fish and Wildlife officers didn't really know what to tell him. There's a disconnect between the officers and Tallahassee.
We can't. Our hands are tied. Okay, we're not.
But I mean, it's not like I didn't do anything.
No.
I did all I could do.
Okay, your permits, your license that you applied for. I'm telling you right now, they're not being approved.
They cashed my check.
I didn't know either until.
See, that's what's fucked up about the whole thing. Nobody knows. I've been calling and calling and calling. I'm
not
fucking very mad right now. I want to flip out.
Don't flip. Hey, we're not the ones. We're not the ones.
You say you're the boots on the ground. I get it, but you told me that last time I was here, so I've been calling Tallahassee like crazy.
I am not against. I just want this to be known. I am not against law enforcement. I'm not. I do think the officers in this particular situation screwed up royally, and they should be some repercussions because private property was destroyed and animals, which is the most important thing, animals were killed, in my opinion, needlessly. So there has to be some repercussions. There also need to be some repercussions in Tallahassee because what's going on, in my opinion, and the opinion of many animal lovers, is draconian. How can a man, Chris Coffey, who has been following the letter of the law for many, many years as a responsible snake keeper and breeder, all of a sudden now become a criminal?
I'm just upset that I try to do the right thing. I try to get in touch with your bosses. They won't call me back. They don't want to be involved with me. It's almost like they want you to fail so that this could happen right here that's happening.
You're being charged with the possession of the Burmese pythons and the reticulated pythons without a proper permit from Fish and Wildlife from the state of Florida, okay?
I knew something was wrong, and you could have just been straight up with me.
Here's the thing, we don't usually tell people that they're going to get a ticket.
He was made a criminal after they changed this law. And he was trying to do the right thing to remain in the good graces of Fish and Wildlife by saying, listen, I've got these 34 snakes. I need more time. What can we do? They're here at my facility. Well, Fish and Wildlife came over. Instead of providing him with some solutions or working together, what they decided to do was cite him, turn him into a criminal, and they did what's called a constructive seizure of his animals. If you watch the body cam footage on Nerd's channel that Donnie put up, it's fantastic.
The whole thing about being arrested is or being charged is worse to me than that, because I go through life making sure I do the right things and I don't get in trouble.
I understand.
And then something like this happens.
With all these rules, things have changed from when you first got your you noticed the change. There's always been a change.
I mean, like, you told me to do it. You know that I did. You know that. You were here. You documented. I had about 140
Let me give you another example. All the green iguana tegu stuff, all permit holders that were commercial and sold, they've got a memo. They're not going to list.
I don't care about that. I'm just telling you that
we're not
you told
going
me
to list.
to liquidate them. I did.
They did.
I just got stuck with these. I wasn't able to get rid of them in the time frame. You said stop. I followed the law. I stopped. Okay. So I got this here.
Tell it to the judge.
What happens is he is now worried about his livelihood and his status as a citizen because now he is a criminal. He has been cited for a criminal activity. So Fish and Wildlife, after the outcry for the Holy Thursday Massacre, after this outcry, their social media has been inundated with angry pet keepers, animal lovers, as it should be. This is the time to raise your voice and let it be heard constructively. Never threaten people. We don't want to see any of that. We want to see real change with the administration, the administrative effects of what Fish and Wildlife is doing. We need change there, okay? I don't necessarily blame the good people wearing the uniform. I blame the people that don't know what a boa, the difference between a boa and a python is. That's important. If you're gonna enforce laws, you better know the species you have to enforce. It's very, very important. And I would also hope that, we could work together. So FWC, in response to the immense outcry of animal lovers, and even in the mainstream media, USARK has been incredible with getting the word out about what's happening. And USARK has been fighting for reptile keepers' rights here in the state of Florida and also across the country. There's USARK, and then there's USARK Florida. And they are engaged in an active lawsuit, and they have been ringing the warning bell since these regulations have been coming down the pipe, saying that something like this was going to happen. And guess what? It did. It happened. What they've been saying is 100% correct. So Fish and Wildlife, and I'm going to get back to USARK here in a little bit as well, but Fish and Wildlife put out a statement, and basically I'm paraphrasing the statement, but Fish and Wildlife said that they take the matter seriously. Okay, we're going to paraphrase. They take the matter seriously of the accidental killing of the legal boa constrictor. The thing that is misleading is they said that Chris Coffey asked them to euthanize the invasive snakes. Now, a couple things wrong with that. Number one, reticulated pythons are not invasive in the state of Florida. There are no breeding wild populations of reticulated pythons here. So for them to say collectively that this is all invasive snakes is untrue. The Burmese python is. There were, I believe I think it was 4 or 6 of them in his collection. Those could be considered invasive, but these were domestic, in my opinion. These were color morphs. These were not wild Burmese pythons. They were not animals that could survive in the wild. Buttercup could never survive in the wild because, obviously, she does not match. She does not have a cryptic coloration. She is, for all intents and purposes, a domestic animal. She has been bred selectively over many generations to get this color, as Chris Coffey's Burmese pythons have. Again, locked cages, microchipped, no escapes. These animals there was no escaped animals from his collection. Okay? Very important. So Fish and Wildlife is being disingenuous when they say that. That's not true. And they're also, in my opinion, being a little bit disingenuous when they say that Chris Coffey relinquished these animals and wanted them to euthanize it. Chris Coffey was under extreme duress for his freedom. When they came there and they said, he's like, look, you can take these animals. He was scared of being arrested. He is the sole provider for his family. Being arrested, he's faced with an impossible decision. He loves his animals. They are his pets. Buttercup may be for commercial use, but make no mistakes, I love her. I enjoy her. I've spent thousands of dollars on her, as do all of us who love these animals. They may not be a cat, may not be a dog or a bird, but guess what? We love them just the same. We don't love them, we're fascinated by them. I love them. I don't want to see a bolt put through their head, which is what Fish and Wildlife did to over 30 animals in Chris Coffey's collection. Imagine seeing someone take your dog or cat and kill it. I know it was horrible for me to bring my cat to be humanely euthanized. I was devastated when it was time for this animal to go. Can you imagine healthy animals being killed in that manner with a bolt gun to the head? And we'll get to that in a moment also. I just want to try and stay focused, guys. This is all coming, it's kind of stream of consciousness, what I'm talking about right now, because it's so raw, because we're all animal lovers. And we want to see these animals cared for in the right way. So for them to say that he gave them up, it was a seizure of the animals. They were seized from him. Then to add insult to injury, he's got to keep them, he's got to feed them, he's got to care for them as he always has been, and he did it. And then after 14 months, not hearing anything, of having his charges were dropped, I'm sure with great legal expense that he incurred, the charges were dropped to him. 3 Florida Fish and Wildlife officers came over under the guise that there was an escaped reticulated python in the area. So they went to his facility, to Mr. McAdams' facility where Chris Coffey kept his snakes. And they told him that they were going to euthanize those snakes. They even asked him to pull the first one out and hold it down. Can you imagine the trauma of holding one of your animals down that's trusted you? These animals build a trust. Do you think this animal trusts me right now? She has got no ability to see well, and she is allowing me to stand here and talk to her and talk to you. This snake is not trying to hurt me. This snake is not trying to bite me. It has developed a trust. That's what's incredible. These animals rely on us for their overall well-being, their health, their feeding, all these things, okay? Anytime you get bit, it's your fault. It's mistaken identity, and there are the right way and the wrong way to do things. Now imagine I had to grab this animal and hold her down while somebody from the state, okay, is putting a bolt through her head. And then, as if it's an assembly line of murder, they just take this animal, throw it aside, and move on to the next one, and expect you to do that. It's like, it's just beyond disgusting, in my opinion, to ask the owner to do that. And that's what was asked of him, and he couldn't do it. So he said, I can't do this, okay? He put up a camera, his camera phone. He explained to the officers what animals were to be touched and what animals were not to be touched. Put the camera up. The camera was not hidden. It was not a hidden camera. The officers knew the camera was there. They then proceed to just go, they were there about 4 hours or so, just on an assembly line of murder, just killing these animals one after another, one after another, one after another. By their own rules and regulations, FWC did not follow the procedure for using this bolt gun device. You're supposed to, in my understanding, you're supposed to anesthetize the animal. That was not done. The gentleman who was using the bolt gun never used it before.
Center it. Just pull. It's a safety, and then you just kind of bang on the top.
Yeah.
Go here.
Yeah, you don't have to hit it that hard, I think. Was your
No, you're fine.
Your palm is going to start to
Your
hurt.
palm's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
So that, in my opinion, is not cool. You should have had some experience before you're going to kill that many animals. They hit it. The bolt goes down on the animal's head. They're then supposed to pith the brain. They're supposed to go through and scramble whatever's left of the brain in there so that the animal is truly shut off, if you will. Well, they're in their zone. They're just tossing animals in garbages, and these animals are writhing around, still feeling the pain. As you know, reptiles have a primitive nervous system, and they feel pain. They don't die easy, which is why you can see reptiles, crocodilians, turtles, lizards, snakes with incredible injuries on them. Incredible injuries. I'm talking like flesh ripped out, and they're still alive. They're incredibly tough animals, but believe it, they feel that pain. They're feeling every bit of it. So the officers going through, they were told not to touch the boa constrictor. There was a label. They went on, they grab out the boa constrictor, smash the animal's head, and that's when they realize, oh no, we screwed up. There's so many things wrong with this that there has to be a come to Jesus moment, okay? All U.S. Ark Florida is trying to do when they deal with Florida Fish and Wildlife, originally all we want to do is to have real communication between those in power and the reptile industry, and in bigger news, the pet industry here in Florida. Because we knew something like this was going to happen. U.S. Ark Florida said it. It has happened. It's a problem for Fish and Wildlife. This is a bad thing to have happen. It shows that there's no real professionalism there, and that these animals didn't need to be euthanized in that way, if at all. So basically, those are the facts of the case, as I understand them, as they've been presented in the media to me. I wanted to continue to shed light on this situation because I don't want this to just go away. This can't just go away. Reptile and animal lovers are passionate people. We need to keep this passion going. But more than just typing on social media accounts, we need to have real action. U.S. Ark Florida needs your help. They need donations. They're in an active lawsuit against Florida Fish and Wildlife for the ruling about the Burmese pythons. There is an active lawsuit going on. If there's any good that can come out of the murder of these animals, perhaps it will be that Fish and Wildlife in Florida take a good look at their procedures and their rules and regulations, and perhaps they'll work with us now. It's incredibly important that we do going forward. We don't want to lose the freedoms to keep these animals responsibly. We don't want to see other animals needlessly killed that are people's pets, cherished pets. I know it may be difficult for some of you to fathom that someone could love a snake, but people do. I do, since I'm 4 years old. And anything else said, if you're against snakes, that's fine. Imagine your dog or cat, hamster, something that you loved being killed in that way. Don't be prejudiced against animals. If you love animals, guess what? You love all animals. So it's important that, I don't know what I'd do if someone came in here because of some administrative thing and kill Buttercup when she's a perfectly healthy animal. She's never hurt no one. She's in a locked cage, in a locked shed building, and she provides enjoyment for me. I provide for her. I spoke with Bill McAdams. We were actually supposed to visit him as I filmed this video, but unfortunately I'm not well. So I don't want to get anyone else sick, just Matt. And basically, we're going to do that next week. We're going to go visit him and hear from him how he feels. But he did inform me that Chris Coffey may not want to go on camera because Chris is traumatized by what's happened. Chris is overwhelmed with grief. He's depressed. He feels bullied, and I don't blame him. It's scary when the state can come into your home or come into your place of business and do something as horrific as that. Especially if this man was trying to do the right thing, which he was. We have to remember we're all people, okay? He wasn't a criminal. He's a guy that loved snakes and was trying to do the right thing, and basically what he did was he rehomed over 100 of them. You mean to tell me there's no human beings in Tallahassee that could kind of give this guy a little bit more time? There's no way to do that. I think there are ways to do that. I think we need to see the human side here as well. We need to be more human because we need to, you may not be able to see yourselves in a snake. Some of us, you may think they're so far removed from humanity. Like, you look at a dog, oh my God, you can see interaction. You can see the face muscles. You can see a dog smile. You can see the expression in its eyes.
Personification.
Yes, you can see that personification, that I think it's anthropomorphizing. I can never say that word, but we put ourselves into our animals. You can't really see that in a turtle, in a crocodile, in a snake or a lizard. But isn't it amazing that if human beings truly are the top of intelligence for the animal kingdom, that we have the ability to empathize, that we have the ability to look at a snake and marvel at it instead of being revulsed, or look at it in revulsion. And I think it's up to us to use our humanity in a good way, and really appealing to the humanity of the people that are watching this video and to the people in Tallahassee. I want the people who watch this video to call your state senators. Go to USARC on their Instagram page, on their YouTube channel, on this channel. We're going to have in the description how you can get in touch with them. They have in their bios on their social media, USARC Florida. Follow them on social media. They are the tip of the spear for this fight. And they are really, truly fighting for us. They need your donations. They need you to call your state senator if you live in Florida. They need you to come join me and them and all reptile lovers and animal lovers. Because guys, ain't stopping with snakes. They're going after fish, birds, small mammals. They're going after anything that is exotic, okay? Very, very important that you join us the 10th and 11th of May 2023 in Miami, the Blue Lagoon. There's going to be an address that we'll have for you to join us. I will be there. I'm going to speak. Fish and Wildlife needs to hear our voices and see that we are not just people that are going to let them take away our animals, that we're going to fight for our animals. We love our animals, and we love Florida. We love the natural resources here in Florida. And owning a snake doesn't mean you're destroying the environment. These are domesticated animals, captive animals. Very important that you understand that. I've talked a long time, and it's very important. I hope you guys watch this whole video, and I hope you guys come away with, if you've never loved a snake, I hope maybe you've come away with a little more appreciation for these animals and the way we feel about them. Go to USARC, Chris Coffey's GoFundMe. All those links are going to be in the description. Thank you for listening, if you've listened this far, and I'll see you in May 10th and 11th in Miami at the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commissioners meeting. Thank you.